In the packed Senate hearing room, the hush breaks as Senator J.D. Vance steps forward. "Governor Newsom, welcome to Washington," he says, his voice calm and measured sharp as a blade under polite tones. Beneath that smooth courtesy, there's a hard edge. The senator has come prepared. Around them, the bright lights and cameras buzz, and the gallery is full of Californians, small business owners who lost their shops, parents watching children fall behind, families driven out by costs they couldn't bear. They lean forward, finally hoping someone will ask the questions they've been dying to hear answered for years. Gavin Newsom walks in with his signature confidence intact. Perfectly groomed hair, expensive tailored suit, practiced smile. He looks every bit the polished politician, the golden boy of California. Maybe even a future presidential candidate, or so he's always thought. Newsom takes his seat in the witness chair, adjusts the microphone, and allows himself a small smirk. To him, this feels like just another political performance that he can sail through with charm. But Senator Vance is unfazed. "Governor," he begins, "I'm sure you're used to California, where nobody holds you accountable, where you can dine at $300 a plate restaurants while telling everyday people to stay home, where you can spend $40 billion and somehow make things worse. But today is different. Today, I have questions, and you are going to answer them under oath." Then Vance looks the governor square in the eye. "Let's start simple. The 6th of November, 2020. Where were you that night?" Newsom opens his mouth to respond, but Vance raises a hand to cut him off. "Actually," he says, tone clipped, "let me save you the trouble of lying. I'm going to tell you where you were." Vance takes a breath. The gallery hangs on his words. "You were at the French Laundry in Napa Valley," he says, "dining with 11 other people, none of them wearing masks, while California was literally burning. Want to explain that?" Newsom's confident smirk finally falters, just for a heartbeat. He starts to speak. "It was just a dinner." But Vance isn't finished. "You want to say it was an innocent birthday party for a friend?" He sneers. "At a restaurant where the wine list costs more than most Californians make in a month? Just a casual get-together? Huh? You know who was at that table? The CEO of the California Medical Association and its top lobbyist. The same people who spent millions on TV ads telling everyone to wear masks. And not a single person at your table was masked. But sure, everyone else must obey the rules, just not California's elite." He smirks back, ignoring the governor's attempt to object. "Totally normal," he says, irony dripping from his voice. "Just another Tuesday for California's ruling class, breaking every rule they imposed on the rest of us." Vance snaps his fingers. "We have photos, Senator, not rumors," he adds, flashing images on his tablet. "A local news crew got clear shots of that private dining room. Look at this. 12 people shoulder to shoulder, laughing, eating $300 tasting menus, sipping bottles of wine that cost more than a week's groceries for a family. Zero masks, zero distancing, zero of the rules you told everyone else to follow." The senator steps in close, voice hushed but cutting. "Picture it. A small, closed-off room with sliding glass doors. Your party was so loud that the restaurant actually shut it in. So yes, indoor dining. While you were on camera telling Californians that indoor dining was too dangerous, you had told restaurants to stay outdoors or shut down entirely, or face penalties, and many did so, went bankrupt, trying to follow your orders. But in here, at the French Laundry, you were violating every one of your own rules." He pulls out another document with a flourish. "Let's talk numbers, Governor. The tasting menu at the French Laundry is about $295 to $350 a person before tax and tip. Let's call it $300. 12 people. $3,600 for one meal. All this while small business owners were losing their livelihoods because you shut down their workplaces. Does that sound appropriate to you?" Newsom shifts uncomfortably. "The dinner was a mistake," he mumbles. "I apologized." A beat. Then Vance reads aloud from Newsom's own apology letter. "I made a bad mistake. Instead of sitting down, I should have stood up, walked outside, gotten in my car, and driven home." He lets the words sink in. So you're saying the mistake was just sitting down? Not the entire situation, the maskless party with powerful lobbyists? Violating your own safety orders? Just the act of sitting was wrong? Did I hear that right? Whispers ripple through the audience. For the first time, Newsom is truly on the defensive. He tries to recover. Let's talk about your dinner companions, Vance continues, tilting the documents as if the governor's eyes could see them. On your right sat Dustin Corcoran, the California Medical Association's CEO. On your left was Janice Norman, CMA's top lobbyist. Their organization was airing ads 10 days earlier, with slogans like, "Mask up, California Save Lives." They were screaming at everybody to wear masks and save lives, and yet they sat at your table without a mask, inches from each other, laughing. Wasn't that a little hypocritical? Newsom tries a defense. We were following the county guidelines. The restaurant assured us it was legal. Vance slams a hand on the desk. Stop. That doesn't matter. 10 days before your dinner, you held a press conference and ordered Californians to limit gatherings to 3 households. Your dinner had 12 people. That's more than 3 households, correct? Newsom stammers, looking to his lawyers. We didn't specify more than 3, he says weakly. According to the San Francisco Chronicle, you didn't dispute that at the time, Vance says. So you violated your own rule. You broke your lockdown guidelines. You partied with lobbyists and industry execs who were lecturing everyone else about safety, and you did it in a $300 a person restaurant, while small businesses were being bankrupted by the policies you enforced. Governor, you apologized for sitting down. What more do you want? The people of California watched you on TV, dining indoors, maskless, flouting your orders, and they were furious, because their restaurants were forced to close under that exact order. He slams the podium again. They watched their neighbors lose businesses, lose livelihoods. Their dreams ended because you said restaurants were too dangerous unless you were eating there. Do you understand why they're angry at you? A silence falls. Then Vance gestures behind Newsom. Let me tell you about Maria Chen. All eyes follow his finger to the gallery. Can you stand, Maria? A woman stands up. She's in her late 40s. Thin-framed, tired eyes. Vance describes her. A restaurant owner from Sacramento named Maria. 20 years in business with family recipes. A beloved spot called Chen's Kitchen. She shut down in March 2020 because of your order, he says. Maria complied. She believed this was temporary, like we all did. She burned through her savings, took loans. By November 2020, she was drowning, on the verge of losing everything. Then she saw these photos. The room falls completely silent as Maria stands, hands clenched at her sides. Vance's voice softens, but his words slice through the quiet. Photos of you at the French Laundry, Governor, indoor dining, laughing, maskless, spending more on one meal than Maria ever took home in months, all while her restaurant was forced closed by your order. He turns to Newsom. Governor, how do you think that made Maria feel? Newsom doesn't look up. He can barely swallow. Vance continues. Maria lost her restaurant. In February 2021, it was foreclosed. 20 years of her life, gone. Why? Because you told Californians that indoor dining was unsafe unless you were doing it. You said counties needed more authority. Orange tier means indoor dining, right? But not for Maria. For her, there were no exceptions. Just closure. Just bankruptcy. Just 20 years of work destroyed in a flash. He lets the weight of that truth settle. 20 seconds, maybe 30 chairs creak. Someone coughs. The gallery is trembling. Then Vance stands up tall. You called it a bad mistake, Governor, he says, voice measured but firm, but I have to tell you mistakes happen to all of us. What happened here was not a mistake. It was a choice. You chose to violate your own rules. You chose elitism over leadership. You chose luxury while Californians suffered. And that, he declares, pointing to Newsom, was not a mistake. That was who you are. Newsom sits frozen, mouth agape. The senator picks up his papers. Let's take a 5-minute recess, he announces. Governor, You might want to use that time to think carefully about your next answers, because what we've done so far is just the appetizer. The main course is coming. The chair bangs with a recess gavel. Newsom slips out of the hot seat for the first time that day, a buzz. When they return, he's visibly less composed. The confidence he walked in with seems to have drained away. Vance resumes his place, tapping the papers before him. "Governor," he says, voice low, "let's talk about children, your priorities on education." The shift is immediate. Vance wants to highlight another set of rules, this time for Newsom's own family. "You kept California schools closed longer than almost any other state," Vance states. "Right?" Newsom hedges. "We followed CDC guidance, prioritizing safety. California public schools, even in your own Sacramento County, stayed closed for in-person classes through most of 2020 and well into 2021. Vance insists. Newsom admits it was true. Vance leans forward. "Do you have children, Governor?" Newsom swallows. 4. He says ages 4, 7, 9, and 11 at the time. "And where were they going to school during the pandemic pause?" Vance asks. Newsom tries a casual tone, but it comes out clipped. "They attended a private school here in Sacramento." Vance zeroes in. "The very school stayed open for in-person learning all that time while public schools were shut down, correct?" "Yes." Newsom concedes after a pause. Silence. The double standard hangs in the air. "So you're telling the parents of California's children that it was too dangerous for their kids to be in school, but your own 4 kids were safely in class every day?" Vance's voice stays steady, but it's blunt. "Almost like one set of rules for those who can afford $20,000 a year private tuition, and a completely different set for everyone else." It's a rhetorical question. The answer is obvious. Vance grabs the next page. "This is real," he says, not some rant. A 2020 census survey found that 43% of low-income California families didn't have reliable internet for distance learning. 43%, nearly half, had no proper way for their kids to do school from home. "Governor, were you aware of that?" Newsom looks irked. "Yes. We provided hotspots. We tried to help bridge that divide. And yet," Vance leans forward, "you still kept schools closed, forced families into Zoom classes, even as your own children learned in person. You see the problem here, right?" Newsom's voice goes up a notch. "Local school districts made reopening decisions. We only issued guidelines. It was up to them." Vance shakes his head. "The choice was yours, too, Governor. You created tier systems, threatened to cut state funding, pressured teachers' unions. You made it so hard that many districts simply gave up reopening. Then you blamed them. That's supposed to be leadership?" He lifts another document. "Look at this study from the Public Policy Institute of California. Quote, distance learning has widened gaps for children of color, children in low-income families, and children of less educated parents." End quote. That's not theory, that's data. Your policies forced kids into distance learning, and as a result, inequalities widened. Meanwhile, your own kids had small classes, face-to-face instruction, a full curriculum. They stayed on track, but across the state, many students fell behind 2 years, 3 years, for some, an entire generation at risk of damage that might never be caught up. And yet, your children were fine. Funny how that works, huh? The words hang heavy. There are no ready defenses. Newsom tries again. "Every parent wants the best for their kids. We did what we thought was best." "Sure, every parent does," Vance nods. "But most parents in California didn't have the option you had. They had to rely on public schools, the same public schools you kept closed. Do you understand why this looks hypocritical? An imaginary clock ticks in the room. The truth is staring back at them. The governor's children thrived, while the poor and working-class kids suffered." Somebody in the back just said, "Amen." Vance notes, eyes narrowing. "Let me introduce another face of this story." He stands again and points. "Sarah Mitchell, will you please stand?" A woman rises from a fourth-row seat. Exhausted, mid-30s, a single mom with 2 kids. Sarah lives in the same school district as you, Vance says. She worked full-time from home, administrative assistant, decent job. But juggling work and 2 kids on Zoom all day was impossible. Her 10-year-old son fell 2 grade levels behind in math. Her 12-year-old daughter became depressed, stopped eating regularly, began having nightmares. All from the isolation you mandated. Sarah didn't have a choice of schools. She couldn't afford private school or tutors. 3 hours of live instruction a week was all her children got. The audience watches Sarah. Vance knows Newsom is looking down again, unable to meet her eyes. Your children learned in classrooms every day, with teachers and friends. Her kids learned on a screen, alone. And you know the irony? He asks quietly. You personally went to private Catholic school and private university, a free education in San Francisco, and then at Santa Clara. You know the value of it. Yet now, as governor, you fight school choice and oppose private education vouchers. You say charter schools have no place in California, but you send your kids to private school while denying that choice to others. He lets that sink in. Hypocrisy like this? It's crushing. Your support of public education is fine in words, but your actions tell a different story. You protect the system for others that you don't trust for your own family. Actions, not words, Governor. And the actions here have been clear. Newsom's defense falters. Vance glances over his list and glances back up. 2 scandals so far, he says softly. 1. The French laundry dinner. You violating your own pandemic rules. 2. School closures. You shut down public schools while your kids stayed safely in private class. Murmurs begin again. Newsom's lawyer whispers urgently. The governor's jaw tightens. He tries to regain composure, straightening his posture. But the damage is done. People in the gallery are now talking among themselves, nodding. This isn't abstract policy anymore. It's their lives and livelihoods being held up under a spotlight. Vance continues. Governor, we've heard these excuses, heard you defend. But I want to say this. Your family hasn't suffered a day under the policies you imposed on millions. None of this affected you directly. Not a bit. That's privilege, not luck. And it ends now. He sits and rubs his temples. Speaking of choices, Vance says, already getting to his feet again, let's talk about what you told Californians about homelessness and what actually happened. A hush falls as Vance sets the next course. In your inaugural address, January 2019, he reminds Newsom, you promised a Marshall Plan for affordable housing. $37 billion, you said. A statewide mission to end homelessness. So, Governor, what did Californians get for $37 billion? Newsom fumbles through papers. We've spent about 37 to 40 billion across various programs. Vance repeats it, 40 billion. And in that same period, did homelessness increase or decrease? Newsom answers haltingly, increase, by about 36,000 people. Senator Vance's expression is stone. Let's do the math together, he says. When you took office, roughly 151,000 homeless people. Now, it's 187,000. That's 36,000 more, about a 24% increase, even factoring the pandemic. We spent 40 billion, and there are tens of thousands more people on the streets. Our numbers, right? Newsom reluctantly confirms. And what did our state auditor say about how we spent that money? Vance asks, pulling a thick government report. He reads, the state lacks current information on the costs and outcomes of its homelessness programs because the California Interagency Council on Homelessness you created has not consistently tracked or evaluated the state's efforts. He shakes his head. We have no idea where the money went, he says, quoting, Cal-ICH has not aligned its plan with the goals to collect financial info and ensure accountability. In plain English, you never set up a proper system to track $40 billion. No tracking, no accountability, no results, and the number of homeless skyrocketed. Vance stands and starts pacing, voice rising. Governor, look at this. $40 billion divided by the 151,000 people we started with. is over $260,000 per person. With that, you could have given each of those people a $200,000 house and $60,000 for everything else. Job training, furniture, whatever. Instead, homelessness got worse. Each dollar was supposed to help people, but no one even bothered to count it properly. If you can't even measure what works, how do you fix anything? He lets out a harsh laugh. And it gets better. The federal audit of California's housing department in 2024 gave us the worst possible fraud score. This is the state that lost $32 billion to unemployment fraud. And now it turns out our homelessness spending was the same story. No fraud controls, $40 billion spent with no oversight. Are you telling me that doesn't concern you? Newsom tries to interject with the usual complexity, but Vance waves him off. I don't want complexity, I want clarity. If we contract a $1.6 million shelter without saying how many people it must serve, how can we know if it helped anyone? There was no answer, because no answer exists. All we have are these audits. San Jose couldn't track how money was spent. San Diego had a contract with zero metrics of success. The state database is a mess of test entries and missing records. You might have served half as many people as you think, or maybe less. We don't know, because nobody checked. And you still blame the cities? You threaten to cut their funding, as if it was their fault for accepting one-year grants with no guarantee of anything. That's not leadership, Governor. That's scapegoating. An audible sigh rises from the room. Vance softens, looking at the governor. Let me introduce someone. From the back, a man rises slowly. Tall, built like a soldier. He is Marcus Thompson. Marcus is in uniform, Vance says quietly. He served in the Marines, combat engineer in Afghanistan. Came home with PTSD. Needed help. He applied for VA benefits in Sacramento, and the VA lost his paperwork. Twice. The third time, Marcus ended up homeless on Skid Row in Los Angeles for 2 years. The senator fixes his gaze on Newsom. 2 years homeless, while you spent $40 billion and ran programs and held press conferences. Marcus eventually got help not from the state, but from a private charity. Cost about $8,000 total. They housed him, got his paperwork sorted, connected him with services. Vance's voice breaks slightly. $8,000. Meanwhile, our own calculations were $260,000 per homeless person with nothing to show for it. Marcus stands there looking at you unflinching. Even, and I have to ask, Governor, where did that $260,000 go? Marcus wants to know. So does every Californian watching. The gallery murmurs. Newsom, now almost inaudible, mutters, we funded multiple programs, housing first, mental health services. The pandemic complicated things. Vance shakes his head, disappointed. Ah, the pandemic. That one excuse? He points an index finger to Newsom. It's always the pandemic. Pandemic made you go to the French Laundry. Pandemic made you keep schools closed. Pandemic made the $40 billion disappear into thin air. But look around, Governor. Other states had this same pandemic. Other leaders faced homelessness with far less money and got results. The pandemic isn't your excuse, it's your crutch. Sitting down, Vance surveys Newsom's ashen face. 3 scandals now, Governor. The French Laundry hypocrisy, the schools hypocrisy, the $40 billion homelessness disaster. No tracking, no accountability, just more homeless people. He rubs his eyes tiredly, then stands and faces the audience. What do they think? It's the tipping point. People begin to shout, standing in anger. Where's my money? Someone yells. Others stomp chairs, some literally on their feet. Security steps in as voices rise. The gallery erupts with frustrated cries for justice. This feels personal, visceral, real. Newsom, chair creaking under him, is shrinking into himself. The chair bangs down. Vance calls it, we'll take a 15-minute recess. Gathering his papers, he adds, Governor, you might want to speak with your lawyers. When we come back, we'll talk about why your failures are driving companies and people out of California faster than you can imagine. He pauses, voice low. almost sympathetic. They say rats leave a sinking ship. I don't blame them. When the hearing resumes, the tone is even more urgent. Vance is back in place, microphone ready. Newsom leaning back solemnly. Governor, let's talk about California's economy, the senator announces. You've always boasted that California is the world's fifth largest economy, right? Silicon Valley, Hollywood, land of opportunity. But those days are fading. Big companies aren't just quietly moving, they're fleeing. In droves. It's not a few. It's a flood. Newsom clears his throat. Uncomfortable. Some companies have relocated, yes, but many still have a presence here, he offers weakly. Vance smiles without humor. Really? Let me help. Tesla moved its headquarters to Texas in 2021. Oracle followed to Austin in 2020. Hewlett-Packard Enterprise to Houston, 2020. Charles Schwab to Texas in 2020. Chevron finally left for Houston in 2024. After 145 years. SpaceX moved to Texas in 2024. Twitter, or X, moved its headquarters out in 2024. And get this, In-N-Out Burger, an icon of California, on every coffee cup in LA, on every music video from the West Coast, decided to base its new HQ in Tennessee, starting 2025. Shall I continue? Each name lands like a drumbeat. Silence. 74 major companies left California just in the first half of 2021. Vance continues. Not the usual churn of business. 74 in 6 months. That's not a normal business cycle. That's an exodus. Now these CEOs are speaking out. He reads off quotes. California policies, including that special education law, Elon Musk said, were the final straw. Chevron's CEO in 2019 said, California's policies have become pretty restrictive on business. You even signed laws that were cited as pushing out the world's richest man. Amazingly, your administration tried to paint that as political positions. But fact is, business doesn't care about politics. They care about taxes and costs. He pulls up a chart of tax rates. Your corporate tax rate is 8.84%, the highest in the nation. Your top income tax is 13.3%, also the highest. Texas, 0 state income tax. Florida, Nevada, Tennessee, all 0. People do the math on that, plus the regulatory nightmare and housing costs here, and they're leaving. Every month, another announcement, another home packed up. Families are fleeing, too. He ticks off more stats. In 2024 to 2025, California had a net loss of 200,000 residents. That's like an entire city vanishing every year, carrying their jobs and tax dollars out of the state. And the result? Our budget went from a $97 billion surplus in 2022 to a projected $50.70 billion deficit in 2025 to 26, a $167 billion swing. Why? Because the tax base you rely on has run away. And when businesses leave, jobs disappear, revenues fall, guess what happens? Taxes go up, more companies leave, and on and on. It's a death spiral, Governor One. Your policies are accelerating. Newsom tries to defend. California's economy remains strong. We're still a leader in innovation and startups. Vance shakes his head. Past tense, Governor. Those companies used to make California's tech economy. They left. They're not coming back. New companies aren't starting here. They're starting in Austin, Miami, Nashville, anywhere but California. Our core industries are moving. Meanwhile, let's watch one small business owner tell his story. He cues a screen. A man speaks. I loved California and built my business here for 15 years, says James Martinez from Orange County. But your taxes and regulations made it impossible to compete. I had to take 70 jobs with me to Arizona. Some couldn't leave, and lost everything. Back in the room, Vance looks at Newsom. He moved 70 jobs. Governor, 70 families uprooted. He's just one of thousands making that choice. I have an actual list here, if you want to hear it. He slowly reads from a printed page. Tesla gone. Oracle gone. Hewlett-Packard gone. Charles Schwab gone. Palantir gone. CBRE gone. Chevron gone. SpaceX gone. Twitter gone. In-N-Out gone. Each name is gone. That's your Silicon Valley on paper. Each departure meant jobs, tax revenue, investment, future growth, all walked out the door. And more are leaving every month. The audience is now nodding in agreement. This is palpable, not politics. People point out companies and neighbors who left. Look, Governor, you can't pretend this is just political rhetoric. Vance says evenly, we had a $97 billion surplus, now a $70 billion deficit in just a few years. That doesn't happen in a healthy economy. That happens when an economy is dying. While we were chatting here, your budget was bleeding. Every time you raise taxes, guess what? More companies announced moves out. Every regulation squeezed out another family. It's not some abstract theory. This is happening right in front of us. Vance pauses and takes a breath. 4 scandals now, Governor. The $300 dinners with lobbyists, the school closures hypocrisy, the $40B homeless mess, and now the business exodus. They connect. All of them. You spend and spend, see no results, so you raise taxes, and more people leave. Every step forward and 2 steps back, it's a pattern. And each failure under your watch is literally killing California's future. While you dine at fancy restaurants and send your kids to private school, the rest of the state suffers. You blame everyone else, but this is on you. California isn't the Golden State anymore. It's the Exodus State. You made it that way. Newsom's face has gone nearly white. He tries to interrupt about venture capital and startups, but Vance cuts him off. Had. Past tense. Those days are gone. Look at the budget. Multi-$100 billion swings. That's not strength. That's collapse. He lowers his voice, almost pitying. Governor, we have 5 scandals now. He continues. We've documented them all. French Laundry, schools, homelessness, exodus. Now, let's do one more. Gesturing to the cameras, he shifts again. At least the people who stayed in California have security, right? Roads, neighborhoods, at least that's been protected? Well, sadly, no. We have to talk about crime, too. Specifically, the law you championed. Proposition 47, the Safe Neighborhoods and Schools Act. His tone is even but seething. Prop 47 sounds good on paper reform, reducing incarceration, but in practice, it turned theft into almost a free-for-all. If something under $950 is a misdemeanor, what incentive do thieves have to stop stealing? They walk into any store, stuff their pockets, and know they can't go to jail. Store clerks were ordered not to intervene. It's too dangerous. Police won't chase a thief for a $200 theft. DAs won't prosecute when they have felonies to handle. So what happened? Stores started closing. And all you did was cheer that Prop 47 was good policy. He leans toward Newsom again. You supported Prop 47 inches 2014, yes? He asks pointedly. Newsom answers cautiously, yes. But the intent? It reclassified theft under $950 as a misdemeanor. Correct? Vance presses. Yes, Newsom says finally. Well then, Vance continues. After Prop 47 passed, major retailers started sounding the alarm. Did you hear Safeway reported a 15% increase in shoplifting? Target said up to 50% increases in some stores? CVS, Rite Aid, went through the roof. Were you aware of those reports? Newsom just says, retail theft is a complex issue with many factors. Complex? Vance's eyes narrow. You saw the data. And what did you do about it for 5 years? Nothing. You gave grants and created task forces in 2024, the year Proposition 36 went on the ballot to roll back 47. But not before thousands of retail workers lost jobs and stores shut down. That was your solution. A task force. After 10 years of chaos. Meanwhile, small businesses had to close. Whole neighborhoods lost groceries, pharmacies, goods, and for a decade, nothing changed. He flips charts showing crime stats. Look at this. Commercial burglaries in Fresno jumped 38% from 2019 to 2022. Los Angeles, 29%. San Francisco, 26%. Alameda County, 64%. Orange County, 54%. All after Prop 47 passed. People's cars were getting broken into, windows smashed. One viral video shows 10 to 20 thieves ransacking a store while store employees look on helplessly. Why? Because Prop 47 gave them no consequences. It became, as one police chief said, a get-out-of-jail-free card. And your friends in LA City Hall admitted, this law explains LA's crime spike. Those people were warning you. You knew this was happening. You did nothing for 10 years. Then he turns again to the audience, waving away his papers. And now, let's meet someone who paid the price. Senator Vance points to a woman standing up. Jennifer Nguyen. Jennifer Nguyen is a petite Vietnamese-American woman in her early 40s. Vance introduces her quietly. She managed a CVS in the Tenderloin for 20 years. She had a stable job, a career, was proud of it. Then, Prop 47 passed. Every day she saw people come in, grab dozens of items, leave knowing nothing would happen. She filed hundreds of police reports, all for theft, under $950. But the police wouldn't come for such petty thefts anymore. Corporate policy even forbade her from intervening. But Jennifer kept reporting. One man even taunted her. What are you gonna do? Call the cops? They don't care. He was right, and he knew it. Police were swamped, courts full, criminals just walked free. Vance's voice grows quiet with empathy. Eventually, the CVS couldn't stay open. It closed. Jennifer lost her job, 20 years of loyalty, because thieves were effectively running her business. She's here today. She looks Newsom in the eye and asks, why did my job matter less than your ideology? Why did you do nothing? Retail. Jennifer stands facing Newsom, tears welling quietly. Vance turns back. Governor? Can you answer her? For a long moment, Newsom can't. Finally, he mumbles, I understand the frustration felt by retail workers. It has been challenging. Challenging? Vance repeats. Her 20-year career is gone. Her family's life has been ruined. Thousands of other retail workers have lost their jobs. Neighbors lost access to groceries, medicine, basic necessities, because stores closed or cut service. Poor neighborhoods became food deserts, and your policy enabled it. You thought giving criminals second chances was more important than protecting working people, and it cost Jennifer her livelihood. That's not a noble stand, it's a tragedy. And for 10 years, you watched it unfold without lifting a finger. He surveys the audience. People are furious now, tears, rage, confusion. Some shout, answer her! Others simply boil with disbelief. Security steps in as voices crescendo. Newsom slinks further into his chair. Vance sits back down, gathering his papers one last time. 5 scandals, Governor. French Laundry hypocrisy, schools hypocrisy, $40 billion homeless debacle, businesses fleeing, and this retail theft explosion. Each one is on you. Rules for you, rules for them. You had private dinners while their restaurants closed. You had private schools while their kids learned over Zoom. You threw money at problems and made them worse, then blamed everyone else. You raised taxes, drove out business, and now call it leadership. No more. People see the pattern. Different California for you and for everyone else. He leans forward. Let me tell you, I grew up poor, he says directly. Appalachia, Ohio. My mom struggled with addiction. We barely survived on whatever we could earn. I joined the Marines, earned my way through college on the GI Bill, went to law school. The American dream can work, but not like this. Not in California, because you've built a 2-tier state. For you and your friends, fine restaurants and private schools. For the rest, skyrocketing costs, collapsing services, no safety net. We followed the rules, paid the taxes, and we get crushed. Meanwhile, you dine in luxury and spend other people's money. People like me, working folks, we can't live in your California. And yet you keep the old promises. Well, we're done with excuses. He stands. The room is quiet, except for the weight of his words. I've sat here 3 hours listening to you dodge responsibility. Your lies, your task forces, you're blaming this and that. Here's what I've learned, Governor. You don't take responsibility. You don't feel accountability. You've lived in a bubble of privilege your whole life. A bubble where a $300 dinner is no big deal. $40 billion failures are just talking points. Where hypocrisy is Tuesday morning. But the people I spoke with today, Maria, Sarah, Marcus, Jennifer, the Rodriguez family, they're not in your bubble. They live in the California you created. And today, we made you hear them. He stares Newsom down. We had these 3 hours under oath, Governor. All documented. You couldn't dodge it. These victims, these facts, the evidence, it's undeniable. And now, after years of your excuses and failures, someone finally held you accountable. Someone asked the hard questions. The truth came out. A long pause. Newsom sits there, defeated, speechless, his face blanched. Then the gallery explodes. People leap to their feet, clapping, cheering. Finally! Someone shouts. He said it! Others shout in relief. The mood is electric. Anger has turned to catharsis. Vance nods and raises a hand. Gradually, the noise dies down, but the energy remains triumphant. For once, justice feels real. The hearing adjourns. In the hours that follow, clips from that hearing spread like wildfire across social media and news outlets. Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, TikTok. Everyone is talking about the French laundry photos and Newsom's humiliation. Major news shows replay the highlights. Even commentators who usually stay neutral or supportive find it devastating. The evidence is too stark to defend. Newsom's office puts out a statement at midnight claiming he answered fully, but no one's buying it. The video speaks for itself. In Washington and Sacramento, Democratic leaders stare at their shoes. Nancy Pelosi, Dianne Feinstein, silence. Even the political pundits are saying, this is a career-defining disaster for Newsom. Presidential ambitions? Gone. His name barely makes short lists for 2028. Others talk about the Michigan governor, the Commerce Secretary. Two major California donors publicly redirect their support. Staff quietly circulate new resumes. The word spreads. No one wants to be aboard a sinking ship. Back in California, life goes on. Maria Chen goes home to Sacramento to catch up on sleep. Her daughter, watching TV, asks quietly, Mom, did that really happen? Was the senator telling the truth about the restaurant? Maria just nods. Yes, sweetheart, she answers. He did. Will we get our restaurant back? The girl asks. Maria hesitates. Maybe, honey. Maybe something good will come of it. How do you explain accountability to a 12-year-old? Maria thinks about it. A few days later, her phone rings. It's a private investor, David Park. I saw your story. He says, I have property in Midtown Sacramento. Great location. I'll handle the renovations and everything. You run the restaurant, and we split the profits. What do you say? It sounds almost too good to be true. He's sincere. A partnership, not charity. Maria still trembles with doubt. What if this fails? But her daughter reminds her, You always say, don't give up, Mom. So she agrees. Neighbors and strangers rally behind her. A crowdfunding campaign, launched by people moved by her testimony, raises $50,000 in a week. Teachers, restaurant workers, small donors, sending whatever they can, $5, $20, yuan. They see Maria as a symbol of resilience, of not letting elites win. 4 months later, Chen's Kitchen opens again at a smaller location. New sign above the door. Chen's Kitchen, Sacramento. Opening night, 300 people show up. A line snakes around the block in the rain. People come from 3 hours away, from San Francisco and the Central Valley, all to eat her food and support her. They're waiting 2 hours, but nobody minds. They whisper to each other, That's right. Maria, you go. A reporter asks Maria what she thinks about Newsom. She just smiles gently. "He told us to sacrifice and stay home," she says softly. "We did. He didn't. That's all I need to know about him. No screaming, no insults, just calm truth." Across California, other stories spread too. Marcus Thompson, the Marine veteran who lost years to homelessness, starts receiving calls from companies mostly veteran-run offering jobs. Within a week, he's got 15 offers. In construction, security, logistics. He takes a construction crew position for $40 an hour and is told, "If you need anything, just say, we take care of our guys." He proves himself and is promoted to crew lead in 3 months. Stability, purpose, paycheck, things he never had. He even starts speaking at veterans groups and city meetings. $40 billion is a lot of money, he tells them. But what did it do? Veterans don't need more consultants or excuses. We need help filling out forms, deposit to get an apartment, first month's rent, a job. If a private charity could get me off the street for $8,000, imagine what we could do for thousands of veterans with that kind of plan. His message resonates. The system failed many people, so the people are stepping up. Within a few months, he and other vets raise a modest fund for homeless veterans. They set a goal of $80,000 to help 10 vets, and end up raising $400,000 and housing 50 veterans. 94% of those veterans stay housed long-term. Simple help, quickly delivered. No red tape, proving Vance's point that the money was there, but not the will to use it wisely. Meanwhile, Jennifer Nguyen, who lost her CVS job, finds work at another drugstore in a safer part of town. It costs her an extra commute, more gas, one more hidden cost of California life. But she has a job. Many of her former colleagues are still unemployed. Jennifer hasn't forgotten them. She becomes a voice for retail workers across the state. She starts testifying at city council meetings and in Sacramento, telling a story that's easy to understand. Politicians write laws that sound nice on paper, but they never live with the consequences. "We're the ones who got mugged and threatened," she tells them. "We're the ones losing pay and homes because criminals know there's no penalty. We're the ones that politicians never see because they're not shopping at those stores." Her message that ideology had real victims resonates even in unexpected quarters. Progressive newspapers and labor unions take note. Here is a lifelong Democrat who believed in these reforms and now can't defend them. She writes op-eds in Sacramento, LA, and San Francisco papers, reminding everyone that being soft on crime, with no backup plans, hurt working people the hardest. The very people politicians claim they're protecting. She doesn't yell or hate. She simply tells the truth, and people listen. As for Newsom, he tries to downplay it. He gives no press interviews, skipping public events. When a friendly TV host asks, he calls the hearing political theater, but no one presses. The tape did the talking. Even his own party won't rally to him now. His donors have quietly shifted funds to other races. In private, some legislators say it's time for new leadership in Sacramento. Talk of recall grows. Newsom still serves as governor for a while longer, but he's on autopilot, avoiding headlines, sticking to safe topics. He used to brag about California's strength. Now analysts quietly wonder how the state will recover. Despite the fallout, California's problems don't vanish overnight. Homelessness continues to climb, reaching nearly 193,000 by 2025. Corporate flight accelerates. Even Chevron abandons its home state entirely. The population shrinkage keeps hitting record highs. Housing prices stay sky high. All the crises remain unsolved. The hearing didn't fix them, but it did something important. It reminded everyone why truth and accountability matter. For too long, Gavin Newsom had governed in a bubble. Friendly media, loyal donors, safe districts. No one asked the tough questions. Today, Vance asked them under oath, with documents and witnesses and cameras rolling. No ideology, just evidence. For 3 hours, America saw the reality of one California. The California of ordinary people living everyday struggles collide with the dream of another California inhabited by the elite. What emerged was a portrait of hypocrisy laid bare. A governor who preached sacrifice to working families from which he was exempt, who allocated billions and then couldn't track it, who blamed everyone else while his policies made things worse. That's not partisan rhetoric. It was accountability in action. And for the Californians who have suffered quietly, it finally felt good, even cathartic, to hear those truths spoken out loud on a national stage. In the end, the message was simple. Leaders must live by the rules they write, feel the consequences they impose, and answer to the people they serve. The hearing, in the eyes of its spectators, was a victory for that principle. It taught a reminder that democracy demands real questions, real evidence, and real accountability. And as Senator Vance closed the session, looking around the silent chamber, it was clear. The truth finally had its moment, and for many Californians, that long-awaited justice felt damn good.